Hey everyone, Ronald here. So I once got asked in an interview, what is .NET? And even though I had been programming over 10 years in C# and .NET, I didn't really know how to explain it. I mean, I knew that C# was a language and .NET was a framework, but I couldn't tell the interviewer, hey! Like Tony Montana from Scarface to say, hey man, look, I told you already. C# is a language, .NET is a framework. That's all you need to know, man. What's with this guy asking all these questions, man? That's all you need to know. You don't want to know more than that, man. I couldn't say that. So if you're a little hazy regarding how to explain it, and you're new to C# or .NET, this video is for you. I'm going to explain it in a very high level and then point you to some resources, so stay tuned. All right, so let's start off by going to Microsoft's website and seeing their actual definition of .NET. It says here, .NET is a free, cross-platform, open-source developer platform for building many different types of applications. A little clunky, huh? It's weird how you have platform twice there. I have an issue with the term cross-platform right here because it gives the impression that .NET completely is cross-platform. But if you were to go to their download section, you'd see that there's .NET Core, which is and was built from the ground up to be cross-platform. But there's .NET Framework, which is Windows only. So if you were a newbie and you're just learning about .NET and you were explaining that in an interview, they might say, well, is it completely platform? And then you might be thrown off like, what does he mean by that? I thought it was completely cross-platform, and then boom, you're stuck. So it could just be better written. And I'll give you like what I think is a better explanation. The second part here, it says, with .NET, you can use multiple languages, editors, and libraries to build for web, mobile, desktop, games, and IoT. So, point being, if somebody asked you what .NET was and you were to say this verbatim, they look at you like you're weird. You'd sound like a dictionary, you know, it doesn't sound very human. What I like is a better way to phrase it in the fact that it is an ecosystem, which is how Scott Hanselman described it, my friend here at Microsoft. You could check his blog and video out on his website, hanselman.com. So the way that I would describe it, piggybacking off how he mentioned, is that .NET is an ecosystem of languages, runtimes, and libraries for building a variety of type of applications, be it for mobile, web, desktop, etc. Boom! You see how much human that sounds? If you were to be asked in an interview like what .NET is and you said that, they're like, oh, okay, cool. Now, if they were to ask you to go in a little deeper, then you can break down those three sections, right? So by languages, you could mention that some of the common languages are C#, F#, Visual Basic, although C# is really the star here. That's like A-list right there in terms of the languages under .NET that people use. F# is getting pretty popular now, but Visual Basic used to be really popular, but it's has-been, as far as I'm concerned right now. It's like almost a forgotten language. It doesn't have its agent anymore. It's like, hey, I used to be somebody. Put some respect on my name. I'm Visual Basic. Yeah, it's over, baby. It's over. It's all about C# now. Now, besides those languages, there's a heck of a lot more that is supported by .NET. if you were to go under Wikipedia here on this link, take a look at all these. So that's pretty impressive, but these are kind of like the unnamed ones. I rarely come into a job where they're asking me like, hey, can you code in Pascal ABC.NET? I didn't even know that existed, you know. But it's good to know. So there's like over 20 different languages that .NET supports. Now the next thing that we mentioned was the runtime environment. So specifically, what you would need to know is about the Common Language Runtime, and that is the virtual machine component of .NET, which manages the execution of .NET programs. In addition, what's really important to mention is that it provides additional services, including what's highlighted here: memory management, type safety, exception handling, garbage collection, security, and thread management. So you mentioned that the CLR is responsible for doing those type of jobs. People are going to know that you know what you're talking about. And they usually won't go much deeper than that. But if they do, it'll be about the inner workings of the CLR. And I actually talk about that in a course that I'll mention to you a little bit later on. Now, the last thing that we mentioned here was that there's a collection of libraries within .NET. And the libraries can be something as intricate as code that communicates with the network, or some math function that determines whether or not it's a floor or ceiling of a number. Like, those are all part of various different types of libraries which are categorized, and you could kind of like look that up on Microsoft's website to get familiar with maybe some of the common libraries that you could mention. Sometimes that comes up in interview questions. They'll be like, what are some of the libraries that you use when you're coding? So that's kind of good to know. Now, I mentioned that there's a course that I created, and it's called Learning.NET Programming here. It's on lynda.com, which is also the same company as LinkedIn Learning. LinkedIn, the company, purchased lynda.com. They acquired it, and they rebranded it to be called LinkedIn Learning. So in this course here, I give you a good overview, starting off talking about the architecture of .NET. And that's something really good to know in order to be able to go in a deep dive explanation if you were to be asked to explain how the CLR works. So I talk about the architecture of the CLR and how it works with the compiler. And then I move on to discuss how to set up Visual Studio and Visual Studio Code. And that's just in preparation for some apps that we're going to build. So for the first chapter, I talk about the architecture. The second chapter, we go ahead and start setting up our environment. And the third chapter, we start building some apps. The first one is a console app that we build in .NET. Then, followed by that, is a web application using MVC in ASP.NET. Following that, we'll build a web API together, and then a WPF app, which is Windows Presentation Foundation. I don't think that's too popular nowadays, but at the time that I created this course, it was more in practice. But after that, I talk about some really popular C# features, and then I finish up the course with some testing methodology, particularly test-driven development, and I show you some of the tools that are available within .NET in order to implement that. And the very last thing that I do is demonstrate how it is indeed cross-platform using .NET Core. And I do that by performing some code on a Mac. Everything else earlier, the majority of it is in Windows. So it's a really fun course. I enjoy putting it together. It's pretty popular. A lot of people love it. So I definitely recommend that if you're new to .NET or just want to have a refresher. Again, I'll put in a link that's a trial membership if you don't have an account with LinkedIn Learning or lynda.com. And it'll be a month trial. So you have more than enough time to complete the course. Okay, so that's it for me. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more videos that I'm going to put out soon. And if you have any questions regarding some of the topics that I covered, or if you have some topics that you'd like to see me create videos on, feel free to put that in the comment section and I will do the best that I can to put some out. So that's it for now. I will see you in the next video.